A summer beach town expects crowds, cash, and calm water. But when swimmers start vanishing and officials refuse to shut the shoreline down, one man can't ignore the pattern. Each new sign points farther out to sea, toward a strange buoy line and a hunting path no map can explain. With the fog getting thicker and the nights getting louder, he teams up with a hard-edged boat captain and a nervous deckhand to face what's circling just beyond the breakers. The closer they get to proof, the more the ocean seems to push back. Chapter 1. The First Ripple. People come to Cutter Bay for simple things: sun, fried food, and the feeling that the ocean is friendly. I used to believe that too. I'm the kind of man who likes facts, patterns, and clean answers. But the sea doesn't care what you like. It started with a missing swimmer just after sunrise. The lifeguard said the water was calm. The waves were small. No storms, no warnings. One minute the guy was out past the break, the next he was gone. No screaming, no thrashing, no splashing that matched an accident. I walked the shoreline while the crowd gathered at a distance. The sand told a story if you looked close. A drag mark cut through the wet sand toward the water, like something heavy had been pulled fast. Nearby, a surfboard floated in, cracked at the nose. Its leash strap was torn clean through. At the diner, my friend Mara slid newspaper clippings across the table. 2 more disappearances from nearby beaches. Different days, different times. Same result, gone. They're going to keep the beach open, she said, voice tight. They're saying it's just bad luck. Bad luck doesn't leave patterns. I went to the town meeting that night and pointed at a map dotted with red marks. The officials argued about money and tourists. I argued about blood and math. When the meeting ended, the beach flag was still up. The sign still said beach open. And I stood at the water's edge at dusk, watching a ripple far offshore that didn't match the waves around it. Chapter 2. The Captain's Warning. You don't hunt something in the ocean without someone who knows the ocean. That's how I met Cal Harker, a fisherman who looked like he'd been carved by salt and wind. His bait shop smelled like diesel, dead fish, and old fear. I told him what I'd seen. He didn't laugh. That scared me more than any joke would have. Cal pulled out a laminated chart, tapped it with a thick finger, and said, "People love to pretend the water is a theme park. It's not. Out there, you're on the menu the second you stop paying attention." He'd heard things from other captains. Nets coming up sliced. Buoy lines snapped. A floating cooler found with bite marks that looked too wide to be real. When I asked him what he thought it was, he kept his eyes on the counter. "Big," he said. "Smart. And hungry." By afternoon, we were on the dock loading gear. Rope, tools, a radio that crackled like it had its own ghost inside it. Cal's deckhand, a young guy named Eli, showed up wearing a life vest like it was armor. His hands shook when he checked the harpoon mount. We pushed out under thickening clouds. Offshore, Cal pointed toward a line of red and white buoys that stretched like a boundary across the water. "That line wasn't there last season," he told me. "They say it's for research. I say it's a dinner bell." At night the fog rolled in and swallowed the marina lights. Cal stared between the pilings, listening to the water like it was speaking a language only he understood. Then something splashed in the dark, heavy enough to make the dock shiver. Chapter 3. Fog on the Water. On the open sea, fog turns distance into a lie. You think safety is close until you realize you can't even see your own way back. We headed toward the buoy line after dark. Cal ran the boat slow, engine low, eyes hard. I held the searchlight and swept it across the water. The beam hit the buoys one by one, each float bobbing like a warning. Cal tossed him overboard. The smell rose fast, sharp and rotten. Eli tried to joke, but his voice cracked halfway through. He gripped the rail and stared into the black water behind us. The buoy rope creaked as we drifted closer. I leaned over with a gaff hook, trying to make sense of bubbles rising near the line. They weren't random. They came in bursts, like something exhaling from below. In the cabin, the radar screen painted a calm picture that didn't match the feeling in my gut. Mara's voice came through the radio, broken by static. "They're keeping the beach open tomorrow," she said. "And there's another missing person report. Please tell me you found something." Before I could answer, the hull bumped once. Not like a wave, like a shoulder. Then the water beside us exploded upward. Foam hit the rail. The spotlight caught a massive shadow rolling under the surface, too wide, too solid, too close. Cal braced himself, teeth clenched. Eli stumbled back, eyes huge. The boat rocked again, harder this time. And in the brief silence that followed, I heard it. A deep, rough sound under the water, like something moving with purpose right beneath our feet. Chapter 4. teeth marks. Dawn made everything look normal, which felt like a cruel joke. I walked the beach and found a length of snapped rope washed onto the sand. The fibers were frayed in a way that made my stomach turn. Not weathered. Not cut clean. Chewed. Mara met me in an evidence room later that day. She was tired, angry, and determined. She set a plaster cast on the table. Jagged impressions ran along it in a curve, like the edge of a trap. "From a piece of dock wood," she said. "Found near the marina." I stared at the marks and tried to make them make sense. If this was a shark, it was bigger than anything the town wanted to admit. If it wasn't, then we had a different problem, something we couldn't name. The newspaper office ran a draft headline that made my hands curl into fists: "Beach stays open." I argued until my throat hurt, but the editor only cared about panic and profit. "You need proof," he said, "not feelings." So I went looking for proof the only place it could be, out where the water turned dark. From a cliff overlook, I watched birds circle above a patch of sea near the buoy line. Birds don't circle empty water. They circle meals. That night, in a cheap motel by the shore, I spread tide charts across the bed. The pattern was clearer now. The disappearances lined up with specific currents that ran straight past the buoy line like a highway. Whatever was out there didn't just wander. It hunted. Chapter 5, The Buoy Line. Cal didn't talk much the next day. He just loaded extra fuel and checked knots like his life depended on them, because it did. I brought flares, a stronger radio, and a plan that felt thin against the size of the ocean. Eli showed up anyway, pale but present. That took courage, even if fear wrote on his face. We headed out under a sky the color of steel. The buoy line bounced in choppy water ahead of us. Cal had built a metal cage meant for hauling gear, but we all knew what it was really for: a shield, a last chance, and maybe a trap. As dusk fell, we lowered the cage until it kissed the water. The chain rattled, loud in the quiet. Cal tossed chum again, and the slick spread out behind us like an arrow pointing straight at our boat. The rope tied to the buoy line went tight. Not from waves, from force. I grabbed it with both hands and felt it vibrate, humming with pressure. The buoys jerked one after another, racing along the line as if something was moving beneath them, fast, dragging the ocean's surface down into a hard, ugly swirl. Cal shouted for Eli to hold on. The boat rocked as if something had struck it from below. I raised the flared gun, the metal cold in my grip, and aimed at the frothing water where the shape kept turning just out of sight. Lightning flashed far off, showing the water for a split second in stark white. Foam, rope, buoys, and a shadow that looked impossibly large. And then the cage began to rattle like something was testing it. Chapter 6, The Sea Keeps Score. Morning came slow after the storm, like the sky didn't want to look at what happened during the night. We drifted near the buoy line in low clouds. Debris floated around us. A torn rope end, a broken light, scraps of gear we couldn't afford to lose. The radio barely worked. Cal sat with his back against the cabin wall, breathing like he'd aged years in one night. I stood at the rail, staring into calmer water that still felt wrong. The ocean can be quiet and still be deadly. Sometimes quiet is the scariest part, because it makes you doubt yourself. Back at the marina, people waited behind fences. Cameras pointed at us. Mara stood near the dock, worry written plain on her face. She opened her mouth like she had 100 questions, but when she saw my expression, she stopped. Later, I went to the beach where it all started. Fresh warning signs stood in the sand. The town finally looked scared, but fear doesn't erase what the ocean learned. That night, I walked out to the rocks beneath the lighthouse. The beam swept across the water in steady passes, bright then dark, bright then dark. I aimed my flashlight down at the surf, searching the edges where foam met shadow. For a moment, the water near the buoy line swirled as if something turned just beneath the surface, patient and familiar. The lighthouse beam slid away, and the darkness rushed back in. I stayed there listening, because once you hear the ocean's hunger up close, you never stop hearing it. If you enjoyed this Jaws-inspired ocean horror story, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one, hit like to support the video, leave a comment with what you think was out there in the fog, and share this video with anyone who loves scary stories that stick with you.